Hello, everybody, and welcome to Show and Tell. We've got Darren Sweet from Ipsodeckso here with us again, here to show us another one of his amazing facilitated or facilitator card decks. So I haven't been informed yet about what we're looking at. So Darren, let us know what we're going to be looking at today.
Brilliant, thanks, Sarah. Okay, I'll start by sharing my screen. So bear with me a moment, and just get it in the right place. Okay, so let me know when you can see the card
Right, I
platform.
can see experience and timeline, 2 stacks.
Okay, so I'll just kind of talk you through what this card deck is all about first off, and then we'll have a little go with it. So the card deck is called Memory Lane. It's quite a small card deck. It's got 2 stacks of cards. One of them's got about 18 cards in, and the other one's got 5 cards in. The purpose of the card deck is to be used as an icebreaker in a change management session. So effectively, at the start of any change management, it could be a change management program that the organization would like to use at the start, or it could be that a change management consultant would like to use it as part of their change management session. And the purpose of the deck really is to help the participants within the session to understand and gain awareness of their own propensity to accept change. And it's kind of doing it through the back door without telling them that that's what you're doing when you're doing the icebreaker, which I'll go into a little bit more in just a moment. So the participants are basically invited to take an unguided trip down memory lane. And what they're going to be talking about is various changes that have happened through the course of their lifetime. And it's changes that everybody will have experienced in some way or another and participated in some way or another. So the cards really are creating this kind of reflective conversation, and it really is just to have that conversation and have that kind of realization dawn over people as they're going through the card deck. So what the facilitator would do is, at the start of the session, they would say something along the lines of, we're going to have the change management session, but first we'll have a little icebreaker, and we're going to use this card deck, which is a great way to get to know each other. And then they would use the cards so that the participants aren't fully aware. But what I'll do first, Sarah, is I'll just show you the experience cards that we would be talking about, and I'll put them in gallery format so you can see the types of things that we'll be potentially looking at. And we'll just select one for our purposes in a moment to just kind of go through. So we've got listening to music, finding a job, so different things that can happen during the course of our lifetime that the way of experiencing it would have changed through the course of our life. So listening to music, finding a job, taking care of the body. I wouldn't read them all out because you can see them as I kind of pull them down on screen. But if you see one that you think, yeah, let's do that one, and then we'll pull that card out and have a look at it. So I'll keep on scrolling through, and then I'll scroll back up. And then you just pick out one that you think, yeah, let's do that
one. Okay. Let's pick out watching television or a movie, because that's changed a lot, hasn't it?
Okay. So let's drag that one over here, and I'll just stick it back into stack format. And then I'm just going to...
I do apologise for the howling noise.
That's okay. I can barely hear it, actually. Just going to expand. So we get rid of the banner at the top, and then we'll just pop this card at the top here. So the idea is that we've got, in one session, they may want to talk about just one of these cards out of the first stack, or they may think, well, actually, we got through that quite quick, and we'll do 2 or 3 of them. But you can get away with just using one, really. And then it's a case of using these filter cards underneath. So the first filter card that comes out is, how were things before your time? So this is really one just to kind of get the conversation going. So when we're talking about watching TVs or movies, how might that have looked before you started kind of partaking in that yourself? So what are your thoughts on
that? Well, I guess a lot of people didn't have televisions, did they? And people used to go, I mean, this is probably going back quite a long way before my time, but people would go and watch
online, Sarah.
People would go to watch the news at the cinema. For example. I'm not that old.
But... Yeah, so it's probably more kind of listening to things on the radio as well, wasn't it? And
Yeah,
yeah, going to
listening
the
on the
theatre
radio.
and cinema. So that's kind of what it was like for maybe our
And I
parents.
guess
And
on television, watching things in black and white would be another thing as well.
yeah, and that kind of links in, particularly for my timeline, onto the next card, which is the earliest personal encounter with it. So what did that look like when you were a child, for example? So was that where it kind of was with you when you were a child, sort of black and white TV?
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
And
I
what
think
about
it
the
was black
area?
and white. Oh yeah. um, so I remember having a portable black and white TV, which I had as a student as well, which I sort of took away with me to the college because obviously, couldn't take the family TV with me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that had a little aerial that sat on the top of it.
Was it one of the old twisty dials
Yeah,
to tune the
twisty
channels in?
dials.
I
Yeah,
remember
trying to
those.
tune it in with a twisty dial. Standing on
Yeah.
one leg in the middle of the room trying to get a picture.
Yes, that was pretty much the same for me as well, which was a major pain in the butt, to be honest. But at the time, it was great to have, wasn't it? Because you didn't know
Yeah,
any
yeah.
different. And then we move along in the timeline, and then we're looking at the evolution through your lifetime. So what can you tell me about the evolution of watching the telly or movies? Sort of
It's strange,
moving
isn't it?
forward?
Because those things happen gradually within your life, you don't really notice the sort of massive changes, but there have been massive changes. I mean, I guess things like a sudden explosion of, there were 3 channels when I was a kid, and then there
Oh,
were 4,
crikey, yeah.
and now there are hundreds.
I still remember when
And
Channel
most
4
people
came out.
don't even watch terrestrial TV anymore.
Yeah, yeah, true.
They're streaming, watching online.
And how did that feel to you when, if we just go back, starting with the kind of all the
Well, I
additional
remember
channels?
I remember watching the very first night of Channel 4
Wow.
on when I was at university. We were all sat in the common room going, "Oh, this is really excited. There's going to be a 4th channel." And we watched Countdown uh, and the Tube, I guess.
So you were quite excited
Oh.
about the new channels coming out,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, new
and then
channel.
and then when it kind of exploded beyond that, was it a case of again looking to experience those new channels, or were you satisfied with what was out? How did you feel about that?
Well, I mean, there was too many to experience, wasn't there, at that point? Once you're hitting sort of like Freeview and things like that, you've then got like hundreds of channels, and that very common experience that I get now, where you've got dozens and dozens and dozens of channels, and absolutely nothing you want to watch, which
Yeah,
is quite astounding, really. It's
and
just
it's
like,
starting to kind of
how
seem
can
to
it all be that rubbish?
yeah, it's true. There's a lot of them that I don't watch because they're just so poor.
Yeah,
Which is kind of bringing us on to how it is today, isn't it? And how you feel about sort of television that's available and the options that are available today. So when it
yeah,
started, you were just talking about streaming. So when it
yeah.
moved over to streaming, did you sort of jump in early on that, or did you
Quite
kind of wait?
early. I like the idea of being able to binge. Um,
Well, the
I
box
guess,
sets.
yeah, yeah, box sets because it's quite frustrating, isn't it? Having to wait a week or whatever, like it used to be, to find out what happens next.
Yeah, quite true. I'm a bit of a box set binger myself. I
Yeah, yeah.
must admit.
I
And
mean,
what
sort
about
of thinking about my favourite TV shows when I was a kid. I mean, Doctor Who. I mean, you had like a 6-part Doctor Who um, sort of episode. Well, it wasn't an episode. 6 episodes, one after the other, all telling the same story. But you'd have to wait 6 weeks to find out what happened.
actually? How did you? I suppose because it was a very big change going from
Yeah,
DVDs because effectively went from sort of Betamax and VHS onto DVDs. They stuck around for what, about 10 years, and
yeah, yeah.
they then switch over to streaming. So how
Mm.
did you feel about the change from having that physical DVD and the kind of, or any kind of racks and shelves of DVD collections, to moving on to some sort of subscriber service?
Well, I only wish that I had, because I've got a cellar full of DVDs. And I would really like to go, you know what, I could get rid of all of these, but I feel very reluctant to do so. And I don't really know why, because it would be ideal to, because they just take up space, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Same with my CD collection. Still got
So
them. And my records.
you've still got a record collection?
Oh yeah, I've still got a record collection.
I remember giving all mine away.
But I mean, that's coming back now, so I'm actually buying records again now.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's sort of the retro stuff. Okay, so basically, you were quite quick to jump in on the sort of streaming revolution, and were you the
Yeah,
same?
but never quite abandoned the old tech either.
So you it's
But
basically,
that might be my hoarding propensity.
and then
Yeah, I've even got, oh God, what were those stupid things called? Mini discs. I jumped in too quick on that one.
see, I never even did mini discs.
Oh no, I did. Got a mini disc player. I've even got some blank mini discs.
Why? And I've got to be
They're really
honest,
fit for props now, aren't they?
they didn't last very long, did they?
No, they didn't. About, I don't know, 3.5 minutes.
But yeah, I still got some DVDs. I've got to be honest with you, in the pace of change from VHS to DVDs, I was very happy with that changeover. But actually, I kind of dug my heels in a little bit on the change from DVD over to streaming. I kind of waited for probably 2 or 3 years to see what was going to
Yeah,
happen with it before making the switch. So I was quite
very
slow
wise, very wise.
change over
Because
there.
if you jump in straight away, you end up buying some very, very expensive tech, because it's always more expensive when it first comes out.
Yeah.
And then when it disappears, I wasn't sad to see videos go, I must admit. I was sad to see tape cassettes go, though.
Yeah, I used to quite like.
And I still have those,
Did
because
you used
there's
to
some.
sit there and when they did the chart show and sit there with a tape recorder recording some?
No, because I was never into sort of like the charts. So I didn't really like, yeah.
When I was like 9 or 10.
Bit too mainstream. Yeah, maybe when I was 9 or 10, but I probably didn't have the manual dexterity to record at that point. So, and by the time I did, I wasn't interested in sort of, that kind of music. That's some mainstream music. But yeah, I've got a lot of mixtapes, and I've still got them.
Did you used to do them for other people as well?
Yeah. There's something quite special about the idea of making a mixtape, which is much more special than making a playlist. I guess it's the amount of effort involved.
Yeah, I think so. And a lot of people used to gift them to each other, and a lot of people would do it to sort of potential partners and things as well.
Yeah.
Romantic
Yeah,
gift.
they are kind of romantic, and the fact that they're a physical, tangible object kind of adds to that in a way that a playlist wouldn't.
Yeah, I think a physical, tangible object that says a lot about you
Mm.
as well. When you kind of give it to that person, it's like, these are my tastes that I think you might enjoy.
Yeah.
So the next card, the final one, is how do you think it might look in the future, and what do you think of that? So with regards to sort of watching movies and TV, how do you think that might move forward?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I did this course on Triz when lockdown started, and one of the things so I don't know how much you know about Triz. So Triz is basically a guy who worked in a patents office, started to notice patterns in the way that products develop. And this is only one of those patterns. There are lots of these patterns, and the way that Triz is used, it's used as a problem-solving tool and as a way of suggesting where a technology might go next. So as an innovation tool as well. So one of the theories is that if a product becomes sufficiently advanced, it will eventually become a field. And I'm trying to think of a good example of that. Become sort of dispersed in the air kind of thing. And I can't think of a good example off the top of my head. But I suppose what that implies for where we're going with kind of entertainment tech is that somehow it will eventually become device independent.
Yeah, as in integrated into our bodies in some way, or into our brains.
Potentially, but possibly an interim step there will be independence from a particular device. So where we've got a situation now where, if you want to, where you had an iPod to listen to your Apple Music, and now you can listen to it on a number of different platforms.
Yeah, so first more integration into just any platform available, and then the platforms themselves all become the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
As in, not the platforms, the technology that we're looking at it on.
Yeah. I mean, in a way that there's been sort of technology available for quite a while now to have electricity that's just in the air and not coming through wires. You can do that to a certain extent. I guess that might be the case. So you just have some kind of almost like radio, I suppose, going back, I guess.
Yeah.
To a certain extent.
I see it at some point being, I don't know, I suppose all kind of virtual and connected to our brains in some way. So some kind of implant.
Well, that's what Elon's after, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, which is, for me, it's kind of, it's exciting and scary at the same time.
Indeed.
So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but mine are definitely giving access to our brains.
I think I might draw the line there, although I say that, and yeah, you kind of.
It's weird, isn't it? Because if it's done with all the right checks and balances, it could be quite liberating to be able to kind of just switch into it at any point as a kind.
But then I've seen Videodrome and Existenz, so
but yeah, it is kind of scary, but also interesting thing. It could be good, depending. It could be dangerous, very, very dangerous as well. I'm also thinking,
I mean, I guess that an analog of that would be where. So a good movie to look at if you want to see what the future's going to look like, I think, is always Minority Report.
Yeah.
Because they did a really, really extensive job, which went on for like 2 years at world building. So they actually kind of built a world which you never actually see in the movie. But there is all this backstory, like acres and acres of backstory about how this world works, including some things that you never actually see. But they're there to inform the writing. But that idea that, when he's walking along the street, and the adverts are personalised to him, but they're also personalised to everybody else. So he's having a different experience through a device than everybody else is having. So that kind of, yeah.
This the ability for advertisers and companies to target us just gets stronger and stronger, doesn't it?
It does.
Which is kind of scary, but also, I suppose you're getting what you want at the same time. So it's kind of a good and evil sort of wrapped up in the same package.
It kind of is. I helped my husband write a very snotty letter about this very thing yesterday, because he with an insurance company, the car insurance, and they moved away from the glass. So they moved away from auto glass, but he didn't get any information about that. So he'd always used auto glass for having windscreen chips replaced, sort of mending, whatever. And then the insurance company moved away from using auto glass to using another provider. But they didn't send him anything to tell him that specifically. So the first he found out about it is he went and used auto glass, and then they wouldn't pay for it.
Right.
And the thing that annoys me about that is that it's perfectly within their capability to produce these useful, personalised information for customers. So they know that he's used auto glass in the past. They could easily have sent him an email because they know everything about him. They've got all that data and they're perfectly willing to mine and utilize that data to send him marketing stuff, but not to send him something that might be useful to him as a customer.
Yeah, and actually it needs to work both ways, doesn't it?
It does need to work both ways, yeah.
To make the world a fairer place.
Yeah.
For the consumer.
Yeah, exactly.
So that is essentially the card deck to give you an idea of how it works. So when you're thinking,
it does start off some very interesting conversations, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? And that's the beauty of it. It is a good icebreaker, but it also helps you to, like, when I'm talking about that, I realise that my propensity to accept change isn't, I'm not kind of somebody that jumps in straight away. I always hold back a bit. And I've realised
but then you haven't got a load of redundant mini discs, so
yeah, this is very true. But also, even like when I moved into kind of streaming, I moved into what was already a proven product. So and I wasn't getting the long delays that people used to have with the sort of downloads and things from the product. It was already lightning fast because I'd kind of waited a few years, I guess. So yeah, I'm definitely not a what do they call them? People that
early adopter.
Early adopter, yeah. I'm not an early adopter.
Yeah. So in terms of a conversation you might facilitate for a group, then how would you go about drawing sort of insights from that?
So obviously the conversation would you be asking the questions like I was asking, like how do you feel about that? How long did it take you to move over to that and that kind of thing? That's the sort of prompts the facilitator would use in addition to these cards. Just so off the back of the conversation, the facilitator will then ask the question. So having gone through that with one or two, maybe the cards from stack one, how do you feel about where you sit with change and your speed of getting on board with change? So the self-realization piece takes place while they're using this deck. But as I said, this is kind of the start of the change management session, because what comes after that is actually all about sort of walking people through how to go through that change journey and identifying what they need to help them get through that change journey. Now, a lot of the early adopters are obviously going to not require anywhere near as much as some of the others. For example, myself, and I need more time to adjust to something, whereas a lot of people need a lot more support and time and more and more.
So you can use it to identify what people's needs might be through that, and it's a very different thing, isn't it? Because with this, this technology happens, and eventually technology will go away. So like when AM radio disappeared, but by that time it's been established for a very, very long time, and the reason that change eventually happens is that so few people are still persisting in using the, for want of a better word, out of date technology, that it's no longer financially viable to maintain it.
Yeah, just a perfect
so it is largely choice driven, though, isn't it? In a way that change within an organization potentially isn't.
Yeah, and organizations have to be aware of the fact that everybody's moving at a different pace. But to be able to identify the pace at which people move is actually quite important. To know what you need to put in place in order to help those people make that change, regardless of what the change is, whether it's a technological change, a change of structure, a change of ways of working, whatever it is that you're looking to bring in. The first thing you need to do is actually identify people's propensity to accept change, which is why I thought this card deck I thought would be quite useful for helping to identify that, just by creating that opening conversation, creating that self-realization. Because a lot of people, when you first ask the question, how are you with change? Most people go, oh yeah, I can accept
I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm fine with change. But actually, the reality is a lot of us do take longer. It's just to get that personal awareness is quite a useful thing, because then you can start building your own framework to be able to kind of move through those changes and just understand what's needed. So yeah, that's Memory lane.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that. That's really, really interesting.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
That's quite all right. Before, you very generously offered the decks that you've shown on Show and Tell on a special offer, and they've gone up into the free tier for a little while. Is that going to be happening with this one?
Yeah, I'll do the same with this. So Memory Lane normally sits inside the gold membership package, but I just think it'd be really nice to continue with the same way as that. As soon as this goes out, I'll pop it on 30 days free for people, so they can just set up a free membership. And not only have they got access to this deck, they've got access to, I think, 4 or 5 other ones at the moment. And
Excellent.
they're on permanently free. So yeah. So as soon as I know that you're going to pop this on social media, I'll flick it straight over to the free period for people to have a play and use them.
It shouldn't be too long. So definitely within the next week, and I'll let you know.
Brilliant. Okay.
So thank you very much for coming again, and hope to see you again next month with another
Thanks,
excellent
Sarah.
deck.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I have to have a think about which deck to use now. But yeah, thanks. I enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Cheers, Sarah.